Moms No Squat Book Club. This week we're discussing breastfeeding without birthing, a breastfeeding guide for mothers through adoption, surrogacy, and other special circumstances. We will be covering topics including tricks and tools to help babies who are struggling to latch, as well as helping babies overcome breast aversion. Thank you so much for joining us today, and let's get ready to hear from some doulas who know squat.
Let's get started.
Reel us in.
All right, so section 2 is all about latching. And so a lot of this is information that's useful for anyone trying to latch a baby into the breast. So we start with chapter 4, what to expect. So we can consider like different things like the age of the baby and past experiences and how they all will affect transition into latching at the breast. How can we talk to parents about like what they can expect for their specific situation? Like,
I don't understand the question.
so if
Give us an example. Start us off.
So whenever we have a specific situation for a parent, like they are adopting an older baby, maybe like that is older than 8 weeks. Maybe they don't have that sucking reflex anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There are some considerations that might need to be made to like kind of know what to expect in the transition. Like if you're getting a newborn, adopting a newborn, it's going to be very, very similar to just if you had the baby, how you would bring the baby to breast. There's not really any past experiences that are going to affect that much, and except your own breastfeeding experiences.
Mm-hmm.
With older babies, you might run into problems of previous trauma for the baby. You might run into problems where they no longer have the sucking reflex. If they had never breastfed before, they don't have those instincts.
Mm-hmm.
They have not imprinted to a breast before. They need to be taught how to latch and how to suck.
Mm-hmm.
Then like if you get to much older, it talked about
It's all the way to 12.
Well, that was talking about
Children who seek breastfeeding.
yes. So like as a way to attach to the new parent, like this book talks a lot about how the baby might have like trauma from being separated from their past, their birth mother, or another past caregiver. Like whenever they are seeking to create a new attachment, like children as old as 12 might seek to breastfeed as a form of attaching to their new caregiver. Then there's also the thought of like how old is too old to initiate breastfeeding, which I thought was, I mean, we always have that problem with our society looking at older children and not really being as accepted to breastfeed. But then there's also the consideration for the adopted child. It says that their developmental age may be much younger than their biological age. So that's like another thing to consider. Like
I almost feel like you would do like a map of like, you know those things where it's like yes, no, and then you go to the next box and then it asks you a question, it's yes, no, and it goes to another box. I almost feel like that would be handy in this situation. Like, is your child younger than how old did you say, 6 weeks? 8 weeks?
8 weeks.
8 weeks is your child that you're adopting, or
whether you're initiating breastfeeding with, you know, and we're looking at maybe like a NICU baby that was in the NICU for a few months. You say, is your baby older than this? Yes. And in that box, it's possible that your baby might have lost the latch reflux. Try this. Are they doing it appropriately? Yes, no. And then go down that way with different solutions per box. That would be a really cool thing, I think. That's just where my brain goes.
Yeah. I mean, like, all of these questions, it like kind of comes down to where is your starting point?
Exactly.
Because like we know the progression, but these babies can start anywhere on that progression based on their history.
And
as
what are you working on? Did they breastfeed before? Did they bottle before? Did they upright and not even like be held with a bottle? Like they don't know about that. So, like,
Yeah, I was talking extensively about how you might, before you even try to latch, you might need to just get the baby comfortable with being held, with being close to another person.
Yeah.
And like, you can't breastfeed a baby who doesn't even feel comfortable being held.
Yeah. I do like in the book they are often respecting the like you're bridging a gap.
I really love how this book is so cognizant of like the baby's history and how they are feeling, because they are human beings with a full range of emotions.
Yeah, they definitely humanize the baby a lot.
Yeah, I love that. It's like the more we can consider their past experiences and what they need for this attachment is going to significantly help in any breastfeeding goals that you have.
Yeah, and the full grieving process.
Yeah,
if they're coming from a different situation.
Yeah, and it talks a lot about how latching is just like kind of on, like, in a way, on a spectrum of attachment. It's all attachment. Like you start with developing that the basic attachment of just being close together, and like you develop an emotional attachment, and latching can kind of come along in that spectrum. And in that way, there is also, like towards the end, talking about any movement towards latching is incredibly valuable for your baby and your relationship with your baby. So it's like anywhere you can get on that spectrum, even if you don't even get to the latching part, all of like your work isn't worthless because you never get to latch. It is, you've still developed that attachment. And so when we're talking to parents, especially if we know like that this is an older baby, they don't have any past experiences, we know that this is going to be a long journey. How can we talk to these parents about managing expectations while also keeping their their spirits up, like they can do this, like not dismissing their goals?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that makes me think of a conversation that we had last month where we were talking about, any amount of breastfeeding is breastfeeding. And I think keeping that kind of language of every milestone met is a milestone met, and really celebrating every goal, every attempted latch, even pre-attempted latching, every bath taken together, every time the baby responds positively to being touched or to mom's presence, or
just reading each other.
Yes, noticing that the baby's overwhelmed, and then she like allowing the baby then to have a moment to come back, and then celebrating the fact that was communicated.
Yeah, being able to develop that skill of responsiveness and being able to read your baby, especially when you didn't have that like 9 months gestational period to develop a relationship. This is a new relationship. We're getting to know each other.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There was, I think it was towards the end, but the authors was talking about her experiences with their own child, and it took 9 months for them to attune to each other perfectly, and or in the way that she was desiring.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, takes 9. It could take 9 months. Which is honestly could be even like a quick timeline because I think she got her baby as a newborn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's like in the same way that when you give birth to a baby, you may not have that attachment and love immediately. It can be the same way with the adopted baby, and she talks about that with them too. And it's like so many parallels. It's such a unique situation, but also it's not. Like it's still it's motherhood. It's a relationship. Breastfeeding, when it comes down to it, it's a relationship.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, that's most of what I had for chapter 4.
I wanted to kind of talk about the SMS system, because a lot of people don't even know that is possible.
Or an option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't see it very much. And it always makes me a little sad that that bottles are such the go-to, because they're one of the least like they're kind of the ones that are hardest to be as like physically close to the baby during a feeding, because you have other but the thing is it's convenient. They're easier to clean than something like an SNS system.
Ooh, I hadn't even thought about that. I've never used an SNS system. I had a client who started to use one, but she used it for such a short amount of time that I actually did not participate in her using it. And I was not upset, except for the fact that I didn't get to participate. Learning experience missed. But I hadn't even thought about the cleaning of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a very small tube,
Right?
You have to like flush it out. And especially if you're using it for formula, it like,
Ooh. Sorry, I shouldn't make that face, but I smelled that.
and like if you,
my brain was like, that's what that would smell like if it wasn't cleaned properly.
well, one of the things too is like if you are using it with formula, it's better to use like the prepared formula, because then you're less likely to get clumps in the line.
Yep. Yeah, that's what my brain immediately went to, was like, and then it doesn't get clean, and then there's clumps, and then it's gonna smell like so sour.
Much harder to clean out than, I mean, breast milk has its own properties that can keep it from getting like gross. But it's like the SNS system is something that I feel like would be especially beneficial for those that are trying to induce lactation, and or even even if they never get their supply up all that well, it's like they can still have baby breasts. And like one of the considerations for the older babies is that like in order for them to keep sucking, they really need the reward of getting milk. Younger babies might be more willing to comfort nurse at the breast without and spend a little bit more time. But older babies are like, no, I need milk. So having that SNS system, and do you want to describe what an SNS system is?
It's like a tube that you can. I have seen demonstrations virtually, not in person, of like taping it up, or like having a little syringe that you're really slowly putting milk into, that is then it can be like right at your nipple, or you can use your finger, and you just put it in the baby's, would go in the baby's mouth next to, so like you'd have this tube that would go like you're breastfeeding like this, and then it goes like this, and then the baby can then learn proper sucking technique on your finger, well, and then you can choose whichever finger is closest to your nipple size. Because there are going to be some people that honestly need to be using their thumb because they have a larger nipple, or they need to be using their middle finger, or, you know, there's a variety of sizes to choose from that's closer to teach them to latch at the appropriate.
I need to ask, I'm sure my cousin was using one this like last month because she is fostering a baby that came straight from the NICU, like was really early. And then have the wasn't having the secondary books at all whenever she got it. I remember her talking about that, but I'm wondering if maybe the switch was using.
That would make sense.
Yeah.
As like the SNS systems, there's a couple of different types. So like you can have a like French tube connected to a syringe, which is basically a DIY SNS system. And then like there's
I would know the DIY system.
you can also like have like bottles that you put the tube, like you cut out a bigger hole in the nipple and you put the tube in, and like that is more effective if like they actually have a good suck that they can draw in the milk well themselves. Something like a syringe would be better for like a weak situation where you really need to like give them positive reinforcement for whenever they're sucking well, but and like kind of learning that skill. Like, and then also having more control over how fast the flow is going, like how much milk they're getting at a time.
Face that feeding.
Yeah. And then there's like some that are like kind of gravity operated, where like the higher you hold it, the faster the flow, and then you lower it and have a slower flow, where there's like mechanisms to speed up or slow down the flow of it. But
Fancy.
There's a variety of ways that you can use.
Or you can just push faster or something. With the center.
Part of it depends on like how many hands you have too. With those types of systems, you can you can have like a way to just like have it held up, tape it on, and then like occasionally control the flow. Whereas like if you have a syringe, like, and if you're finger feeding, then it's like how do you hold the baby? You lay them down. But you shouldn't feed a baby laying down on their back.
No, not on their back. So I did have a client that needed hands-free. And so we took her bassinet and put it next to her rocking chair and completely lowered the side, right? And then we laid baby on her side so that she was like this to be pace fed. I feel like that's what I would do.
Yeah, you like every situation. We're trying to creative solutions.
Yeah. It's my specialty.
I mean, that's really like, that's what people need. Like, they need, like, whenever they are fresh postpartum trying to figure out breastfeeding, they need someone to come up with a creative solution that, like, works for their situation. It's like, I don't have enough hands. What do I do? My baby is getting preference for the bottle. How do I make my the breastfeeding experience a little bit more like the bottle and try and bridge that gap, or make the bottle feeding experience more like the breast? And like sometimes it's just, what exactly are you doing right now, and what are the tweaks that we can make, and what is the specific situation? And a lot of times I don't like creative solutions, but it's a good way to go.
And then you talk to an actual IBCLC and they're like, or you could just use this. Like, oh, okay.
Well, it depends on the situation too. Like, can this mother actually go and spend $50 on a fancy SNS system?
Most of my clients.
So, is a syringe and French tube going to be the more economical solution, or just a French tube with a bottle that they already have?
Cool.
Yeah.
Felt strongly about that one. All right. Passion came out.
Well, that kind of leads a little bit into like kind of discussion for chapter 5 and like in a way transitioning. It's all chapter 5 is all about like the transition and from like to latching from whatever was going on before and respecting that transition. Have you like, can you guys give any examples of any times that you've worked with a family that may have had to fix a breast or a bottle refusal situation? What are your favorite or go-to methods for dealing with those types of situations?
I liked some of the new methods that I read about in here that I was glad to read about. The one where she was talking about like making it to where if a baby is upset at seeing a breast because they, people can get frustrated when they're trying to establish breastfeeding and they start taking baby and shoving baby to the breast because they're frustrated and they're trying to get them to just latch, and then the baby starts associating seeing breasts with stress and mom being upset and kind of losing some of their own autonomy with that, and so then they see your breast and they get stressed out. And I have definitely seen that before, and I've always gone straight to discussing nipple shields and like cover the breast and then putting on a nipple shield that's like through a hole, and then the baby doesn't get stressed out and seeing the breast anymore. And that has worked, but I like these others better because I know nipple shields are controversial. And as a doula, that's on the verge of outside of my scope. So I just let them know, hey, nipple shields do exist. If you're interested in learning how to use one, here's some information on it. Do feel free to speak to an IBCLC about this. However, in the meantime, this might solve your feeding problem because baby needs to eat now. So, sometimes this is something that can help bridge that aversion. But I really liked like when she was talking about taking a bath with baby, and releasing all that oxytocin from there, or like tickle baby and like have your breast out and like kind of like play with them on the face and then get them to latch. And
yeah, I very much enjoyed that story. So it's like as much as you can make being at the breast a fun experience. Like ideally, you'd want to try and avoid situations that make that breast aversion happen. When possible. But like if you are adopting a baby that already has this trauma too, it's like, how do you overcome that?